All right, time to subject you to pain since we didn't hit a level 5 hype train. This is the hidden punishment. I didn't tell you it existed until just now, but this is the punishment for not hitting level 5 on a hype train. Okay.
I mean, it's funny because I think that, you know, the issue that you started to become really politically prominent on, which is the Bill C-16 in Ontario and
Canada, it was federal law.
In Canada, the gender issue.
Yeah.
You know, that's the issue where now the question that's constantly being asked, so why do you even care? Why do you even pay attention? And the answer is because...
I was asked that earlier today.
Oh, really? What did you say?
I'm not letting a cat have my tongue.
Yeah.
It's like it has nothing to do with gender as far as I'm concerned, or...
This has, why would I let the cat have my tongue? This has nothing to do with cats. In fact, this is a hero's journey. I've read enough of the hero's journey to know that there are no cats in it, okay? It's not a cat-related issue, alright? So why would a cat want to grab my tongue? I ask you. You know, it doesn't make any sense. So, when we're talking about this issue, I'm not going to let the cat have my tongue, because the cat doesn't even exist. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for the Dragon of Chaos.
That's peripheral in some sense. So the accusation, why do you care? Fair enough. It's like, you know, in some way, people can go to hell in a handbasket if they're inclined to. Mm-hmm. Now, I would rather have that not happen, but people are, what would you say, doomed to their own autonomy. But I'm not saying words that other people want me to say. And the idea of compelled speech, it's like, the bill was this much about gender.
Yeah, whenever anyone asks me to call them by their name, I say, no, you're human being number 650751. I've met 65700 humans before you, and I have given them all numbers. I don't accept that you have a name, okay? As far as I'm concerned, you were not existent before I walked into the room, and when I walked in here, you started to exist. So, to me, the idea that you even have a name in the first place is unthinkable, okay? You have no name related to me. In fact, related to me, you only have a number, and that is how I'll refer to you, okay? Asking me to refer to you as something else is a form of compelled speech, and I will not stand for it.
Right.
And it was this much about, right. Oh yeah, the government's going to tell me what to say, hey. But now they're regulating what therapists can say, therapy sessions.
This is interesting because to me...
That's right. Before what therapists could say whatever they wanted in a therapy session. You know, me and my therapist friends would get together and say, all right, we're having a therapy session now, and then we would just spend several hours saying the N-word to each other. It was good times, but now the government has cracked down on that kind of behavior, and I won't stand for it. All right? I need my outlet. I need my outlet, my N-word time, or the Dragon of Chaos will win.
To me, the problem with a lot of this is less a free speech issue, even though I'm on the same page with you. Mm-hmm. And to me, it really is a fundamental truth issue, meaning that, yeah, you're trying to force me to say something I don't want to say, mm-hmm. But to me, the fact that what you're trying to force me to say is so innately opposed to the good is the problem. Like you could try. I would have objections to you forcing me to say that I like a particular movie, right? Mm-hmm. It may not be true. I don't like the particular movie. It would be bad if you tried to force me to say that. But the level of passion that I have for issues like this one really go to the fact that I think the fundamental good of humanity relies on basic acknowledgments of biological truth, especially when it comes to gender. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. You know, when we're talking about biological truths, you know, we should really listen to doctors, what doctors have to say in the medical consensus, except as far as relates to trans people, because, you know, trans people are just riding the Dragon of Chaos, you know, the dragon of homosexuality, okay? And when we listen to doctors, we're empowering the Chaos Dragon to seed our world with the forces of its unendurable chaos. All right? Have you seen the movie by Ray Harryhausen where they scatter the dragon's teeth and it becomes a bunch of warring skeletons? It's like that, only in real life. All right? I have personally fought at least 15 to 20 skeletons on my way here, and I cannot endure any more skeletons.
And anybody who's ever dealt with children, I find myself getting, if I look at my own political evolution, I'd say that when I grew up in a religious home, so that means that pretty conservative. And then you go to college.
That's right. That's right, Ben. You should only learn your biological studies from your conservative religious parents. Don't learn about what a heart is, Ben. Don't learn about what a brain is.
And you're living by yourself, and you're not married, you don't have kids, you tend to become a little bit more libertarian, which is like, okay, let everybody do whatever they're going to do, and it's not going to bother me. And then you have kids, and you realize that there's a pool in which we are all swimming, and that pool is going to define...
Virginia.
Exactly. Like my
Yeah, I like to call my pool Virginia, because it reminds me of better times before the skeletons. Now, also, when you're in a pool, the most important thing if you're raising children is to teach them to disrespect anyone who looks different from them, especially if they might be trans. Okay? That's really important as a parent. That is my number one parenting advice from me, Jordan B. Peterson, and also you, subject number 65701.
My kid, it's going to determine how my kid lives. And I want my community to reflect some of my values because I don't want my kid to live.
That's right. I want my community to reflect my personal values, which means anyone who's different from me should get the fuck out of my community, okay? Any of those queers or trans people, and I use that word loosely, get the fuck out of my community if I see you here, so help me God. I'm not transphobic.
In the toxic sludge that you are creating for my kid. I don't want you indoctrinating my kids in bullshit about whether
yes, exactly.
a boy can be a girl or a girl.
I genuinely do hate that Ben Shapiro unironically is just like, yeah, why shouldn't I be able to raise my kids in a community that reflects my values? The kind of argument that like white supremacists used to keep black people out of communities like 50 years ago. Ben Shapiro just unironically reappropriates for queer and trans people. Yeah, also, Ben, how are you proposing to get trans people out of your community? What are the tangible policies you want to pass to keep gay and trans people away from you? Because we're everywhere, Ben. We could be your fucking neighbors, and you would never fucking know.
People will say, well, I'll exceed, but not for my children.
Yeah.
And that's what Virginia demonstrated. It's like, you can come after me, but you come after my kids, and that's a whole different story.
It's so fundamentally opposed to everything true, and the fact that that's the insistence.
Hey,
the insistence isn't that people be treated humanely or be treated decently. The insistence is that your vision of yourself be reflected by me in defiance of baseline reality and in order to redefine how society as a whole works.
Well, Ben, actually, if you look into the science of it, the baseline reality is in favor of trans people existing, and that's reflected by the anthropological evidence, the sociological evidence, the scientific and medical evidence. Literally every single level of evidence that you could want reflects the reality of transgender people and the benefits of treating and accepting trans people into society, both for trans people themselves and for the rest of society. He thinks he's the genital general. Yeah. Look, I don't know. Why does Ben think that he knows who anybody's genital? Like, why, Ben? Why are you thinking about people's genitals so much? This seems like something the Dragon of Chaos would be interested in. Okay. The Dick Defender. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You can move to a place that might be more conservative, but you can't. There aren't any policies you can pass that will ethically keep the transes out of your community. Okay? If you're proposing like trans women can't use women's restrooms, like, okay, how are you going to enforce that in a way that doesn't like fundamentally destroy and ruin both trans women and cis women? Like, Guys, I don't know how many of you know this. Statistically, there aren't a lot of trans people. Any policy you pass to discriminate against trans people, trans women, trans men, NB people, is going to disproportionately affect cisgender people. We've seen it happen already. Butch-looking cis women get roughed up for trying to use the women's restroom because of these policies that Ben Shapiro is in favor of. Because guess what? This is just me telling you this, so I don't want to shock you. People can't accurately assume what genitals you have just by looking at you. In fact, if you think you can, you're probably really bad at it. Like, really bad. Louis Vuitton, it's because we didn't hit a level 5 hype train. We didn't hit a level 5 hype train, and now you're subjected to this.
A lot of it's murky thinking. You know, if someone asked me, do I believe that there are gender fluid people? I would say yes. And I...
Oh shit. Wow. You see, gender fluid people they are the blood that makes up the dragon of chaos. The fluid that courses through its veins. As it pulsates through the night sky, the gender fluid sometimes leaks out and creates gender fluid humans.
I would say a young man who's gender fluid, I know what he's like temperamentally. He's high in agreeableness. He's high in neuroticism. So he has a feminine temper.
Wait, what? Wait, what? Okay, so yeah, I think there are gender fluid people. Now, say there's a man. Okay, wait. I feel like you saw the train and then just stepped off the platform there and totally missed it. So, alright. Okay. So you've already started by misgendering someone, and now you're just like, yeah, see, all gender fluid people are the same, which is why I know that they are all very agreeable and neurotic.
He's more interested in people than things, and he's extremely high in openness. And so his temperament is fluid. He's creative, and so he's one thing one day and one thing the next. And his fundamental temperament is tilted towards the feminine. But that doesn't mean he's not a man.
Right, exactly.
So
exactly.
So it's murky.
No, it's not murky. It's just that sex and gender are two different things. How the fuck have you been talking about this issue for like 7 goddamn years and you don't understand the issue? Sex and gender are two different things. And we know this. We know this because of the entirety of scientific knowledge we have related to history, related to sociology, anthropology, medical science, psychological science. We know this. Sex and gender aren't the same thing. And if you think that they are the same thing, how the fuck are you going around your day-to-day, okay? Ask yourself this, okay? You're going around on your day-to-day. You see someone walk towards you wearing a red dress. It's very form-fitting. They have long blonde hair. They have really well-done makeup. All right? What is their gender? Or you know what? What is their sex? They look good. What is their sex? What is their gender? Yes. The answer is your assumptions based on their appearance, based on their cues, are what make your perception of gender. Your perception, your assumptions, your societal construction and idea of what it means to be gender A, gender B, gender C, gender D, etc., and so on. That is the social construct of gender. And the other wrinkle to this is that that person might identify differently than your assumption, because they are also participating in the construction of gender. So their sex doesn't play into it. You're not analyzing their chromosomes. You're not looking at their genitalia. And if you are, if that is how you are going about assigning people gender or gendering people with your language, I would encourage you to turn yourself into the cops. We peer into the gender fluid pool of scrying to see the chromosomes. True. I forgot about the magical prowess granted by the Chaos Dragon. How silly of me. The Chaos Dragon cults, you know, they're out there. They'll get you. Yeah, sorry, but before I talk to you, I have to take a blood sample so I can tell what your chromosomes are.
Key thinking. And so
that's exactly right.
It's certainly the case that 1 out of 10 women, now it depends on where you put the cutoff, say, but you could say with reasonable certainty that 1 in 10 women has a masculine temperament and 1 in 10 men has a feminine temperament. And so that's a lot.
What is, hey, Jordan Peterson, what does that mean? What does it mean to have a masculine temperament versus a feminine temperament? Because I would hazard a guess that you are casting a very wide net around a bunch of traits that appear in both cisgenders relatively frequently.
A lot of people, and those people, especially if they're also creative, well, they're kind of at a loss in relationship to what to do with their identity, because they're pulled. First of all, they have a hard time catalyzing their identity. Creative people.
Wow, wait, it's really interesting, because it seems almost like you're using they in an almost singular context. Very NB accepting of you, Jordan Peterson.
Have a hard time catalyzing it. It's like the definition of creativity. They're protean. And so there have been people who play at the edges of gender identity forever. And fair enough. And sometimes that's even admirable if it's done in a sophisticated way. And it's charismatic. So you see it in Mick Jagger, you see it in David Bowie, you see it.
What the fuck, man? I don't know if I can do the rest of this, chat. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. All right. Let's finish this, okay?
And you see it in people like Madonna as well, because Madonna had a hard edge, you know, that was very masculine. And all the Marvel superhero women have a hard masculine edge. And so
wait, is this just like, well, obviously, all Marvel women have a masculine edge because they're doing superhero things, and superheroes are definitionally masculine. What is this?
We find that
I think Jordan Peterson is just struggling to describe a female top.
Charismatic, because those people are also integrated. But the notion that there's such a thing as gender, that's not right. There's variability in personality and temperament. And the idea that there's no such thing as biological sex, that's just insane.
No, trans people don't say there's no such thing as biological sex, though. This is the big straw man that conservatives like to pull out all the time.
It's insanity. They've abstracted gender from sex and then read gender back into sex as more important than sex. It's
well, and then why insist upon the biological?
Hey Ben, how often are you looking at people's genitals or chromosomes to determine what their sex is? How often are you doing that? How often are you lifting up women's skirts to see what's underneath them? How often you pulling down people's pants to see what genitals they got? You're not? Oh, well then I guess you're using the gendered social construct. Damn. Check and mate, liberals. Also, AltFact, thank you for the 200 biddies. I appreciate that.
Modifications.
Right.
If there's no such thing as sex, it's like, well, what? Then just act out your role.
Right.
Leave your body alone because it's irrelevant anyways.
Right. Right, Jordan. It's almost like you should talk with a trans person, because literally trans people don't deny biological sex. That's why we have the word trans and cis. Transgender and cisgender are talking about gender. The sex is literally part of the equation here. Jesus.
Turns out it's not irrelevant. You have to go through the surgical transformation, which is a pretty dramatic answer to a question that for 99% of people who are ambivalent about their gender identity would be best solved without surgical intervention.
Yep.
And then so now in Canada, because they banned conversion therapy, it's now all affirmation.
What? Wait, did he just roll his eyes?
Affirmation. Dramatic answer to a question that for 99% of people who are ambivalent about their gender identity would be best solved without surgical intervention.
Yep.
And then so now in Canada, because they banned conversion therapy.
Yo, what the fuck? Imagine somebody comes up to you and is like, yeah, I know, right? They banned torture. They banned torture. Can you believe it? What the fuck are you talking about? Yo, Jordan Peterson. You know, I used to think that he was just like uneducated and like had like a weirdly principled position about like freedom of speech or something. But like watching more of his content, right? He's just straight up in favor of torturing trans people until they claim to be straight and cis. That's it. Dude's just in favor of torturing gays and trans people. How can someone possibly believe that shock therapy turns people straight? I don't know, but I know that there are people in my community who have been literally tortured in these conversion therapy camps, either because they were trans or because they were gay. And let me tell you something, those camps don't work. It doesn't work. All it does is teach you how to lie. All it does is teach you how to lie better. Middle Kingdom, sorry I couldn't sub this month, but I haven't been doing good IRL. Yeah, that's okay, Middle Kingdom. Dude, sub when you can, and maybe someone will spot you a sub. Hey, Artlim, how you doing?
It's now all affirmation therapy.
Right. This is
There's no such
insane.
thing as affirmation therapy.
Right. No, it's insane. I mean, the semantic game that was used.
Yeah, it's just called therapy. Yeah, look, if a trans person goes to therapy, they shouldn't expect their therapist to torture them. Like, Jesus. Literally, any post on Twitter about some article about queer kids, regardless of OP's position, will have cons in the replies implying queer people are pedos who convert gay kids and that people aren't born queer. Yeah, true. Yo, AltFact, thank you for gifting a sub to Metal Elf 2000, and Moonnix, thank you for gifting a sub to Middle Kingdom. Super kind of you. Yeah, affirmation therapy is literally just allowing people to transition.
Used in order to say, well, conversion therapy, which was at one time using electric shock to treat homosexuals,
Yeah.
and saying that that's the same thing as you have a gender-confused 12-year-old.
Look, I had a 14-year-old kid who was a client of mine, and he was in the mid stages of puberty. He was a pretty creative kid, agreeable kid as well, right? And that's important. So he had a bit of a feminine temperament. That also meant he could be pushed around fairly easily. Well, there was an aggressively gay guy in his school was hitting on him and trying to convince him that he was gay. Well, he didn't know. So he wanted to talk to me about it.
Hey, by the way, I don't know how many of you guys know this. Conversion therapy also included things like lobotomies. They would drill a hole in your skull and literally scramble a part of your brain to try and make you straight. Like, the idea that people are so silly. It used to be like torture, but now it's like totally fine. Yeah, no, it's not. We have people in this community who have been sent to conversion therapy camps, and they will literally pull you out into the middle of the desert and like psychologically torture you until you're a broken like version of what you used to be. Okay? They will, yeah, sure, it might not be literally strapping you into a chair and electrocuting you, but it will be torture. And it will break you. Hey, Furious Gyms. Yeah. Don't worry, we'll get to a chill stream later, but this video is making me mauled. Also, I hope you're having a good day, Furious Gyms.
It's like, well, I was going to tell him. What the hell do I know about this kid?
Exactly.
You know, and I wanted to hear what his problems were and how it might be sorted out, what he wanted. And like, that's what you do in therapy, is you help people sort out their problems. Now, this idea is you come to me with an axiomatic claim, whatever it is about your identity, and my job is to rubber stamp it. It's like, I'm not a therapist then. So this is not only insane, this insistence. Like, I like to think of truth, untruth, and anti-truth, right? And the notion that therapists affirm is an anti-truth. Because, look, let's say you come to me and you say, you have a proposition about yourself, and I say, no, I'm your therapist. No, that's wrong. It's like, that's not good therapy. But neither is you have a proposition about yourself, and you're disturbed enough to come to a therapeutic session, and I say, yes, you're right. It's like, I don't know if you're right. And if you're so right, why are you here? Like, what are we talking about if you're already right?
It's a destruction of basically the only form of therapy that we know to work.
Yes,
cognitive behavioral therapy. It's all about saying that
so are the rest of them. They're all this is one of the things that's interesting about clinical psychology. Every single school of psychotherapy is predicated on the idea that free expression of thought or the free transmutation of behavior is curative. And it's true with cognitive behavioral therapy, just like psychoanalytic therapy. It's all the same thing. And also the other axiom of therapy is voluntarily expose yourself in measure.
But by the way, I just want you all to know, like, I know that Jordan Peterson likes to throw around his psychological credentials a lot, right? I need you guys to know, basically every single reputable organization related to like providing therapy, related to like standardizations of practices, has put out statements about conversion therapy to let people know that it does not work. So when Jordan Peterson is like, oh yeah, they don't let us do conversion therapy anymore, that's because it doesn't work. You were just torturing people. Why are they in a cafe around other people? Because they're conservatives and they don't give a shit.
It's what you're afraid of. And so that's an interesting thing, because the psychoanalysts believed when the behaviorists first came up with exposure therapy, they had it formulated wrong. They thought you learn to be afraid. So you're normal, and then something hurts you, and then you learn to be afraid of it. That's wrong. You're always afraid, except when you learn not to. So they had it exactly backwards neuropharmacologically, and it really matters. This matters. That doesn't mean you can't learn some fears. You can, but mostly you unlearn terror, right? So children are afraid to get away from their mother. It's because they're afraid of the entire world. Well, you have to learn how not to be. And you don't learn that by habituation, because that was the idea. So you take someone who's afraid, they've been conditioned to be afraid, you expose them to what they're afraid of, and then you have them do relaxation exercise.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I'm glad that you are so keen on looking at Jordan Peterson's crusty face.
So they counter condition. Well, then it was discovered, and they don't have to do the relaxation exercises. It's like, oh, well, it still works, just exposure. It's like, well, they get less afraid when you expose, because their fear habituates. Like, so then the psychoanalyst said, well, if they get less afraid of that particular thing, the symptoms are just going to substitute, because that fear of an elevator, say, was reflective of the deeper fear of death. Had a client I exposed to an elevator, the doors open, she said, that's a tube. It's like, and her fantasy about the elevator was, it was a place she was going to die in of a heart attack. Well, people were discomforted and, what would you say, made contemptuous of her foolishness while she was suffering and dying. So social alienation and death, that was the elevator for her. So we expose her to the elevator. What does she learn? Not to be afraid of the elevator. No. She learns she can tolerate those fears. She learns to be brave. And so the psychoanalysts were they were diametrically wrong, because if you expose someone to anything they're afraid of, effectively, they get less afraid of everything, right? And so that's partly why psychotherapy is curative in that manner, is that people discover that they're bigger than their fears. They don't discover that the fears are trivial.
I think that the cult of authenticity is going to be the destruction of all psychotherapy, and then, because if the cult of authenticity is that your true authentic feelings are what makes you you, then the attempt to make you brave in spite of your fears is a suppression of your fears. It's almost like a Freudian analysis of you're suppressing your sexual desire, and this is not full authenticity.
Yeah, right. Why isn't the fear you?
Right, exactly.
The authentic you.
Exactly, and I think that that's kind of where we're going. It seems like
Well, no, Ben. It's not, because you see, a lot of the therapy that we're undergoing is to achieve a utilitarian end, right? The reason trans people are going to therapy is so that they don't want to kill themselves. You know, like that's the reason, like, a lot of trans people go to therapy, right? And I know I've been there, okay? And furthermore, when people are going to therapy to overcome their fears, like whether it's, elevators or whatnot, they're going in so that they can achieve a useful thing, which is the ability to use fucking elevators. It's not to affirm every single thing, but we know that there are useful ends to going to therapy for trans people and affirming trans identities, which is reducing the suicidality of trans people. If you could present me like there being a useful end to, like, if you could present, like, it's always useful to affirm how people see themselves, which it's not, then I'd be in favor of that. It is not useful to always affirm how people see themselves, because some people have things like dysmorphia, right? And dysmorphia affects how you can see yourself. And sometimes that dysmorphia is really, really bad and can mess up your ability to interact with others in a healthy and productive way. And it's not good to affirm those things. The same way it's not good to affirm an irrational fear. So like when we're talking about when we're talking about therapy, it is always to achieve a useful end. Always. And there's not a useful end or a productive end for either the patient or anyone else to affirm the patient's feelings in all cases. This is quantifiably true. We know that. So they're just creating straw mans. Here, the baffling thing is that they're creating straw mans in a field that Jordan Peterson should ostensibly know about. And he doesn't seem to realize how ridiculous his points are on the most basic face of it. Yeah, you want to be able to move forward in a positive manner that builds you up rather than tears yourself down. Yeah. Like, like if a murderer goes into therapy, like, yeah, you probably don't want to affirm the murderer's tendency for murdering people. You know, that's probably not useful to either the person doing the killing or to anyone else. You know, like, I don't know. Yeah, like if a serial killer goes into a therapist's office and is like, "Yes, I'm murder gender, and this is just part of my identity." Like, you know what? It's okay to say no. Actually, that's you're not murder gender. That's not some we don't have a huge set of data that it shows that if you don't affirm someone as murder gender, they're going to like that's going to negatively impact them or anyone around them. You know? Yeah, exactly. Can you give a pedo therapy or should we perma jail them? Yo, we should give every single pedophile therapy. Yeah. The Middle Kingdom, like, this is something we've talked about a lot on my channel recently, because conservatives have been really hopping on this professor who talked about, like, how we should destigmatize pedophiles to talk about minor attracted persons so that more minor attracted people can go to therapy, you know? And I think that's great. I am in favor. Here's my bold hot take, chat. I think we should pursue whatever policy leads to fewer children being molested. Hot take. Hot take. And if that means destigmatizing a term that we can use for non-offenders who struggle with these thoughts and feelings, then I'm all for that too. I think that would be swell. Okay? Not because I particularly care about the well-being of pedophiles, mind you, but because I care about the well-being of children. And if people who are attracted to underage folks know that the consequences of them coming forward is going to be like prison or like being murdered, they're not going to come forward and get the treatment that they need to avoid harming children. So, yeah. Let's see. So yeah, whatever policy leads to fewer children being abused. Because right now we're kind of at this place where like if someone comes forward and they're like, yes, I am attracted to minors, right? Their life is basically done. Like their life is basically done. You're not going to get hired to a job. You're not going to get hired. You're going to get fired from your current job. You are going to be completely fucked. And at that point, a lot of people who get outed this way are basically like, well, I have nothing left to lose. I might as well finally act on these desires because my life is shit anyway. I'm basically dead anyway. So yeah, kids still need protecting while these people are getting therapy. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying, whatever's leading to fewer children being abused, that's what I'm in favor of. Just got an ad for the US Navy. I swore I said I can't swim. True. True! Does treatment work, though, or is it sexual urges like trans things? I think treatment does work to an extent, but it's also one of those things where, like, we need a lot more research done, right? Because we don't have that much done on pedophiles because they tend to be too afraid to come forward. What we do know is that when it comes to, treatment, having someone that they can talk to and, like, someone who can help them curb whatever their desires are, that's gonna be a lot more effective than just letting them sit in private and do whatever it is they're doing to get by. Yeah, giving pedos therapy does not mean exposing kids to abuse. Exactly. Well, yeah, that's the thing, Middle Kingdom. there's likely no cure for being attracted to minors. That's not the point of sending them to therapy. The point of sending them to therapy is to give them coping strategies so that they don't abuse kids.
So this movement towards unity that we were talking about, this is a place I think where like informed liberals and conservatives could meet. It's like, well, there is this authenticity, let's say, and drive for adventure. And you see that elevated to the highest place in some sense in the more careless Disney movies. But the full manifestation of that in an integrated sense is the drive towards authenticity inside this higher order unity. It has to be, because otherwise it's disuniting. It causes fragmentation and chaos. And so it has to be subordinate to a higher order end. And then you might say, well, what is that? Part of that's the reciprocal altruism that the evolutionary biologists are always on about. It's like, some for you, some for me, some for you, some for me, in measure, right? And that makes both of us richer. And so that's part of the higher order unity, and people are intensely reciprocally altruistic.
That's great.
It's good.
Actually, if I can get a re-up on something, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. And so it's authenticity in the service of what? Now, when Pinocchio becomes real, he's already rescued his father, right? So he's established an accord with the tradition that gave birth to him already. He's revitalized that. So when he wakes up, he's not free. He doesn't have any strings on him anymore, but he's already existing in a harmonious relationship with his father, which is a big deal. And one of the lovely things about what happens to me as a consequence of
Salmon Moose, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that. Yeah. I don't know. He's off in cuckoo land right now. Hey, let's lay off Middle Kingdom. It's okay. It's okay. I understood where he was coming from, where they were coming from. How do you do, fellow poors? I too enjoy activities conducted by the masses, such as sitting in cafes. Hey, Adodak.
my lectures is that lots of fathers and sons come up to me and say, we've really worked out our relationship. It's like, and they're both like, you've never seen smiles like that. It's really something
Welcome
to be
back,
stopped on
Legion
the street and to
Populi.
be told that. To see people so joyful about that, because it's their heart desire, you know? And that's that integration.
What the fuck is he crying? What is he crying about? I literally, like, he's just been talking gibberish. He was talking about, like, Pinocchio and shit, like...
Drive to autonomy with the family, with the father, with the mother, with the broader community. All that has to be in a higher order unity.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
that's the conservative insistence, right?
Exactly. Is that there are these, the wall, as you said before, the walls have to exist. You can have autonomy, but the autonomy has to exist within the walls. And then once you let the autonomy or the rationalism...
Yeah, look, you can have freedom, but not too much, says Ben Shapiro. Former libertarian, I guess, Ben Shapiro.
Destroy all the walls.
Well, there's no
place for it to
autonomy
sit.
without the walls. There's
Right.
just chaos.
Yeah, I too love living in a place that I extol as the land of the free, but also we need to impose arbitrary restrictions on other people because that's what real freedom means. Okay, bud. Okay. Yeah, you're free to do as we tell you. Exactly. Yeah, Middle Kingdom. I wouldn't say that like pedophilia is a sexual orientation that is accepted with LGBTQ folks, but I would say that it should be treated more like an orientation in therapy, where like obviously the reason we don't accept it in society is because it has harmful negative impact on people. right? Yeah. Orientation and therapy can work both ways. No. Come on, guys. Come on. There, the negative effect on our society of allowing pedophiles to predate on children is obviously not the same as gay people having sex consensually with adults or trans people existing. Middle Kingdom. So gay conversion therapy is a process that claims to make gay people straight. The process of putting pedophiles in therapy doesn't make them not pedophiles. It just gives them coping mechanisms so they never act on their desires. Does that make sense? There's no harm being done if two adult men sleep together. And therapy for pedophiles isn't claiming to make them not pedophiles. They are always going to continue to need that therapy and that support so they don't, like, go and abuse children. Right? No, Stephs, I'm not saying gays are equatable to pedophilia. What I'm saying is if you read up on the academic literature, what they wind up saying is that it is more productive to treat pedophilia as a sexual orientation that cannot be changed. So the goal of therapy in that case is not to change the subject's sexual orientation. The goal is to give them coping mechanisms so that they don't act on those sexual desires. Is that making? Can it make straight people gay? That's an open question, Louis Vuitton. Yeah, so I'm not trying to equate these. I'm not trying to say the pedophiles are part of the LGBTQ community and we need to accept them. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page, I think. I think we're on the same page, chat. Okay, I'm glad, Small Forest. Well, sure, but conservatives are always going to make disingenuous dogshit arguments. And I'm sure if you got conservatives into a position of power, say like some kind of fascist police state, like, yeah, they would probably say, send your kids to therapy forever so they don't transition themselves. Or send your kids to therapy forever so they don't act on their gay urges. Yeah, disingenuous dogshit policy. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, there are reasons why it is good to allow trans people to transition. There are reasons why it is good to allow gay people to be gay. And there are reasons why it would be good to send pedophiles to therapy for the rest of their lives. Just tired of how people still fearmonger the LGBTQ community, calling them pedos. It's not even close. Yeah, I know. It is tiring. Sam and Moose, you understand what I'm trying to say, right? Because, like, you can disagree with, like, the technical wording. I'm just trying to quote the science as I understand it, in a way that other people will understand. but the issue is it's not an illness that we can fix. That's the reason with the difference of language. I mean, I guess maybe you could say it's like a chronic mental illness. Maybe that would solve the issue.